Let me start with something that's going to sound insulting before it sounds encouraging.
Everything about your childhood that made you feel broken, the fighting you heard through the wall at night, the times the car got repossessed, the birthdays that got quietly skipped, the feeling that you were always a little behind everyone else in the room, all of that might be the single biggest financial advantage you will ever have.
Not despite the pain.
Because of it.
That probably makes you angry.
Good.
Hold on to that for a second, because we're going to do something with it.
Here's the premise, and I want to be blunt about it. Almost nobody gets rich from zero by accident.
When you actually study the people who started with nothing, no trust fund, no connections, no safety net, and clawed their way to real money, you stop seeing luck and you start seeing a pattern.
The same 15 traits show up over and over, and the uncomfortable truth is that most of those traits get installed by hardship. A comfortable childhood almost never builds them. So here's how we're going to do this. There are 15 traits, and I've grouped them into 3 sets of 5. Every time we finish a set, we're going to stop and open what I'll call a chest, a single idea that ties the last 5 together and turns them from a list into a weapon. And somewhere in the back half of this video, there's one trait that's worth more than the other 14 combined. Most people click off before they get to it.
If you're the type who stays, you'll know exactly which one I mean when we reach it. Stick with me. Let's open the first 5. Trait 1, a harsh upbringing, or what I'd call survival hunger. These people know what poverty actually tastes like, not the cute budgeting app version of being broke, the real thing. Parents fighting about money at the kitchen table, moving again because the lease fell through. The specific silence of a house where there is never quite enough. And here's what that does to a kid. It builds a quiet, permanent resentment for the life they were handed.
For most people, getting rich is a wish, something they'd like eventually, if it isn't too much trouble. For someone shaped by that kind of scarcity, wealth stops being a wish and becomes a life or death instruction. They figure out early that most of the misery in the house, the yelling, the fear, the tension, would simply evaporate with enough money, so they make a private vow. Not a New Year's resolution, a vow. I am going to be rich, no matter what it takes. Trait 2, early money instincts. Because there's no safety net underneath them, they're forced to make money young.
And I want to be clear, this is not the lemonade stand your parents built for you and then photographed. This is a kid operating in the gray zone, flipping things.
Reselling, being just a little cagey about where they got it and what it cost. They get into people's good graces, they hustle, and yes, they know it isn't 100% clean. Hunger doesn't care about clean. Then, as they get older and find a legitimate path, that scrappiness matures into something heavier, obsession. They're working Sundays while their friends are resting.
In a one-person operation, they wear every hat. Sales, delivery, accounting, customer service, all before lunch. They beg and borrow whatever they need to stay alive one more month. Trait 3.
Surviving on almost nothing. This is the one nobody wants to admit is an advantage. So let me say it plainly. Growing up with nothing sets your baseline for survival absurdly low.
While someone raised comfortably needs a certain apartment, a certain car, a certain lifestyle just to feel okay, this person can survive on air. 3 roommates in a 1-bedroom to kill the rent.
No problem. They've done worse. And that low baseline is rocket fuel, because it means almost every dollar the business makes can go straight back into the business instead of into their life. They stay small on purpose. They don't flex. And here's the part that separates them. Even once money starts coming out of the business, they don't spend it on themselves. They push it into safety nets. Picture someone who owns cash-flowing rental property, real assets throwing off income every month, who still chooses to live in a beat-up apartment. That's not sad. That's a strategy. Trait 4. They put money over almost everything.
This one's going to be uncomfortable, and it should be. In the early climb, these people rank money above family time, above friendships, sometimes above their own health.
They look at the advice, follow your passion, and they roll their eyes, because to them, passion is a luxury good, something the kids of wealthy parents get to buy.
When you're starting from zero, you don't pick the path you love, you pick the path that pays. They become obsessively curious about how money actually moves.
What does this job pay? What does that skill pay? What's the fastest legal vehicle from where I am to where the money is? And then they teach it to themselves, for free, because they can't afford not to. Now, the honest objection to this one is worth saying out loud, because you're probably thinking it. Isn't that a miserable way to live? Ranking a spreadsheet above the people you love?
And the answer, if we're being truthful, is that in the early years, yes, it costs them. That's the trade they're consciously making. The distinction is that they're doing it for a defined window, not forever.
They're front-loading the sacrifice so that the back half of their life can be the opposite: present, generous, unhurried, funded by a machine they already built. The failure mode isn't choosing money for a few hard years. The failure mode, which we'll come back to at the very end, is never turning it off. Trait 5. Learning and operating for free. These people got their education from the internet. Their degree came from YouTube, from free courses, from library books nobody else checked out. Half the equipment they use is borrowed, with a genuine intention to give it back, sure, but also being used hard in the meantime. And they are shameless resource hackers. They'll spin up 10 different email addresses to keep a free software trial running that everyone else just pays for. When somebody says a thing can't be done without money, they treat that as a personal challenge and pull a rabbit out of a hat. First chest. What actually connects those 5? Every one of them is a form of leverage that comes from having less, not more. Low expenses are leverage. Being forced to learn for free is leverage. A childhood that hardened you is leverage. Here's the reframe. The things you thought disqualified you are actually the exact conditions that force the skills. The kid with the safety net never has to learn to survive on air, so he never does. Your disadvantage was a training program you didn't sign up for. That's the first chest. Scarcity isn't the thing holding you back. It's the thing that built the muscles. Now, let's use them. Trait 6. A high tolerance for shame. This might be the most underrated wealth skill on the entire list. These people simply do not care about looking poor, looking dumb, or looking desperate. They'll ask the question everyone else is too embarrassed to ask. They'll wear the silly costume, stand on the corner, post the cringe video that might get mocked. They'll do the dirty, low-status work that prouder people refuse to touch, and there's a reason the shame doesn't land. When you've felt the specific pain of not being able to feed the people you love, a stranger's judgment is nothing. A bad comment is nothing. Looking foolish is nothing. The real humiliation, the one they'll do anything to avoid, is being broke again. So they trade small, constant embarrassment for money all day long, and they consider it a bargain. Trait 7. Strategic imitation. They do not sit in a room trying to invent something brand new. That's a hobby for people who can afford to fail slowly. Instead, they find what's already working in the market, and they copy it. Openly. They build the poor man's version, cheaper, scrappier, uglier, for one reason only: to start generating cash now. Call them a copycat. They'll agree with you while they cash the check. And they've internalized something most perfectionists never do. A product that exists beats a perfect product that doesn't. You make it real first, you start getting paid, and then you make it good. Quality is what you buy with revenue, not the thing you wait for before you have any. Trait 8. Moving fast between opportunities. Here's the founder's rule of thumb they live by. Most new businesses fail, and plenty of them fail early. They don't argue with that number. They plan around it. The goal isn't to launch one perfect business. The goal is to survive long enough to take, say, 10 swings, because they only need one to connect. And to get that many swings, they train a very specific muscle, the ability to read the early signs that something doesn't have legs. When an idea is clearly dying, they don't fall in love with it, they don't defend it, they don't sink another 6 months into denial. They kill it and move. No emotional funeral. Trait 9. Milking their winners relentlessly. This is the exact opposite of the last trait, and you need both. The moment one of those swings actually connects, the moment they find a formula that spits out profit, they clamp down and they do not let go. There's a fear underneath it. What if I never get this lucky again? So they refuse to get bored, and that word matters. Normal people find something that works, and within a few months, they're itching to try something new because the winning thing got boring. These people never get bored of money coming in. If a thing works once, they'll run it 1,000 more times.
then 1,000 after that. It's not glamorous. It's a pure volume game, and volume is where the fortune actually hides. Trait 10. Shamelessness in asking. They understand that asking is a core money skill, not a personality quirk. Their logic is simple. If you don't ask, the answer is already no, so you have nothing to lose by asking. They'll request the favor, the discount, the introduction, the extension, and they'll keep asking right up until they hear an actual, spoken no. They are not above a little guilt trip to get there. And they see straight through the myth of the self-made success. Self-made is a PR line. Every single person who made it borrowed something to start. Someone else's money, someone else's time, someone else's trust, someone else's knowledge. The people who win are just the ones willing to ask for that help out loud. Second chest. What ties 6 through 10 together? Every one of those 5 is a willingness to be uncomfortable in front of other people. Shame tolerance, copying openly, killing your own ideas, grinding the same boring winner, asking until you hear no. They all cost social comfort. And that's the second reframe. Your competition isn't smarter than you. They're just more willing to look bad temporarily. Comfort is the tax the middle class pays to feel respectable. The people climbing out of zero simply refuse to pay it. That's the second chest. Being okay with looking bad for a while is one of the highest paying skills on earth. Now, before we open the last 5, this is the point in the video I told you about. The trait that's worth more than all the others is coming up in this final stretch, and I'll flag it clearly when we hit it. Don't drift now. This is where it pays off. Trait 11, making every single dollar count. Here's the mental model, and it's intense. They see every dollar they own as a soldier. And a soldier has exactly one job: march out into the economy and drag back prisoners, meaning more dollars. Under that model, blowing money on something that doesn't come back isn't a treat. It's a betrayal of your own troops, which leads to a distinction most people never make in their whole lives. Spending $1 million is the opposite of having $1 million. Read that again. The person with the flashy car spent it. The person you'd never suspect still has it, and it's out there recruiting. So they buy assets first, things that pay them, and they refuse to fund a rich lifestyle until the assets they own are large enough to pay for that lifestyle on their behalf. They let the soldiers buy the mansion. They don't. Trait 12, engineering their own luck. They know luck is real, but they also know it only lands on things that are already moving. A parked car never gets a lucky break, so they manufacture motion, cold emails to people who don't know them yet, introducing themselves in rooms they technically don't belong in. Kissing a lot of frogs, fully expecting most of them to stay frogs, because you only need the one prince. It's a scattergun approach, and they're at peace with wasting most of the shots. They post their work everywhere. They follow up when following up feels annoying. They keep walking into rooms where a life-changing person might happen to be standing, because luck, for them, is just a numbers game they refuse to stop playing. Trait 13. And this is the one. This is the trait worth more than all the others combined. So if you're only going to keep one idea from this entire video, keep this one. They are completely, structurally unemployable. Not lazy, the opposite. They physically cannot stomach belonging to an employer, being told when to arrive, what to wear, and, worst of all, having a ceiling bolted onto their income makes their skin crawl. And it comes down to a piece of arithmetic they can't unsee. Work like a maniac at a normal job, and your reward is maybe a raise, maybe a bonus that's a slice of what you actually brought in. Meanwhile, the owner keeps the rest. Once you truly understand that as the owner you keep the surplus, all the value left over after everyone's paid, you can't go back. Let me make that concrete, because it's easy to nod at and hard to feel. Imagine you're an employee who is genuinely excellent, and you work so hard this year that you generate an extra $100,000 of value for the company. What's your reward? Maybe a strong raise, maybe a bonus, call it 10% of what you brought in. $10,000 for $100 you created. The other $90? That belongs to whoever owns the business. Now flip it. As the owner, you might not even be the hardest worker in the building. But the extra $90,000 that the employee generated and didn't keep, that lands in your pocket, plus everyone else's surplus on top of it. Same effort, wildly different ending, and the only variable that changed was which side of the ownership line you stood on. Once you've seen that math, you can't unsee it.
You stop asking to be paid a wage for your effort, and you start demanding to be paid like an owner, because the gap between those two numbers is the entire game.
That's why it's the most valuable trait. Every other trait on this list is just a tool. This is the decision about who gets to keep the winnings. Trait 14, turning pain into fuel.
Remember where we started, the broken childhood as an advantage. This is the engine that runs on it. Every insult, every rejection, every humiliating broke moment gets converted into something usable, aggressive, focused ambition.
And crucially, they do not wait to heal before they build. The comfortable advice says take time off, process your wounds, come back whole. These people build the empire while they're still bleeding.
They keep an enemy in mind, sometimes a real person who wrote them off, sometimes just the idea of the life they refuse to go back to. And the whole business becomes a machine for pointing that "I'll show you" energy at something productive. The pain doesn't go away, it goes to work. Trait 15, playing the long game. They treat the whole thing as a game with exactly two ending conditions: get rich or die.
Those are the only two ways it stops. Everything else, a failed launch, a bad year, a strategy that flops, is just a variable to adjust, never a reason to quit.
And they can be that patient because they understand how compounding actually feels, which is nothing for a long time, and then everything all at once. If they can survive and improve even a little for 5 to 7 years, the payoff in the later years dwarfs everything the early years produced combined. Here's why that happens in plain numbers.
Say you find a way to grow something, income, an audience, a book of business, by 50% a year. Year 1, you go from 100 to 150. Feels slow. Year 2, 225. Year 3, about 340. Still not life-changing. But because each year's growth stacks on a bigger base, by year 7, you're not adding 50, you're adding hundreds in a single year, more in that 1 year than the first 3 combined.
Nothing about your effort changed. The base did. The curve is brutally unfair to quitters because it backloads almost all the reward into the years most people never reach. They bail in the flat part, right before it bends.
The winners just don't leave. Last chest, 11 through 15. What's the thread? Every one of them is about time and ownership.
Making dollars work over time. Manufacturing enough chances that luck eventually lands. Owning the upside instead of renting out your effort. Using old pain as long-term fuel. And refusing to quit before the curve bends. The final reframe is this. Getting rich from zero isn't one heroic move. It's staying in an unfair game long enough that the unfairness flips to your side. That's the third chest. Patience plus ownership is the whole machine.
And now, the bonus trait, because a video about clawing out of zero would be dangerous without it. They don't ruin their lives doing it. Here's the balance.
Yes, a lot of these people hustled in the gray zone early, when survival was the only rule. But the moment real success arrives, the smart ones flip a switch and go 100% legitimate.
They pair that aggressive offense with an equally serious defense. They protect the thing they built.
They refuse to make the one terminal mistake, the kind you don't recover from. Whether that's ending up in a cell, blowing up their family, or letting the grind hollow them out into someone who has money and nothing else.
Because getting rich isn't the finish line if you're not alive, free, and sane enough to enjoy it. Offense builds the empire. Defense is what lets you keep it. So let's bring it home. 15 traits, 3 chests, 1 bonus. And notice the shape of it. Almost none of these are talents. Nobody is born copying competitors, or reinvesting every dollar, or converting humiliation into fuel. These are installed, usually by hardship, occasionally on purpose, which means the real takeaway isn't some people are lucky. It's that the exact things that made your start harder are the raw material for the traits that get people out. Your disadvantage was never the disqualification, it was the training. If you made it all the way here, you already have the one trait that matters most. You finished the long, boring part when everyone else clicked away. That's the whole skill in miniature. So do 3 quick things for me before you go. Hit subscribe, because this channel is built for exactly the person willing to sit through the full climb.
Give this video a like. It genuinely helps it reach the next person who needs to hear that their rough start was an advantage. And leave me a comment with the one number down there, 1 through 15, that hit you the hardest, and be honest about why. I read them, and the best ones shape what I make next. I'll see you in the next one.